I told my boy that I would make him a toy fishing pole. So I have a couple pieces of dowel rod here, and I'm just going to drill a hole in this and cram that into it. And I'm going to carve this up on my lathe a little bit to make it more like a handle. And then I have to figure out some sort of a winding mechanism, and then put a couple rings on here so that the, I guess, fishing line can go through.
That you mean a round thing?
Yep, a round thing.
And what?
I need to drill a hole so that I can insert the actual pole into the handle. So let's see if this will work here. I need to bury. Okay, it's time to put a taper on the end of this. So let's just gouge this out. The taper is done enough. So now it's time to flip it around and put a handle on here, something to grip. So right about there ought to do it. Let's see how that turned out. Okay, not too bad, I guess. We got a nice little grip for my boy, and it tapers off here towards that part. Okay, now I'm going to start making the reel. This is going to be the barrel, and I've got it marked off. I'm going to make a 1/4 inch wide over here, a 1/4 inch thing over here. Center is going to be kind of, I don't know, saddle shaped. And I'm going to drill a hole through it to put a 3/8 dowel rod through it. And that way it'll have something to pivot on. Now it's time to gouge out the shape. I want to go from both sides here. Come on, both sides. Okay, let's drill that 3/8 hole before I forget to. Okay, so here we have our fishing pole. And this is going to be the reel, and it's going to mount somewhere under here, but I need a way to mount this. So I'm thinking 3 small flat pieces of wood, maybe something like this shape here. Let's see what we can come up with. Time to break out the old miter box. I got it fixed into my vise here. And now we're getting ready to cut this piece of wood I made into 3 pieces for the reel housing, I guess you call it. Okay, for this part here, this is going to be the top, this is going to be the 2 sides that get rounded. But I don't really want to do just a glue it butt end there. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a dovetail into this so it fits into this piece. That way it'll have some torque strength to it, I suppose. So let's see if I can make a dovetail. Okay, time to cut the tails. Let's see now. We need to start on the outside of the line. This is some hard wood. Alright, so there's my 2 tails. And yes, my sawing abilities aren't the greatest. This kind of dove in too much, but I'm going to work with it. Okay, I've lined up the top of my piece that's in the vise with a chunk of 2x4 so that I can lay this on top. Now, I just have to try and get my uneven cut as even as possible. Make sure things look square. And then I have to draw some lines so that I know where to cut the pins. And we want to remove this. Very important to do that. Okay, let's try and do this a little more accurately this time. I wish I had a finer tooth saw. This thing is just like taking a chainsaw to this thing. Let's see what we got here. That's the waist side, so let's pull it back gently. Okay, time to remove that center chunk. So we're going to chisel it out of there. Let's see if we can do this. Okay, let's get this on here, away from my line. Cut it clean across. Okay, time for the fitting. I've cleaned it up just a little bit more. Anyway, I already tried it a little bit before and it is pretty tight. Let's knock it together here. And it's not perfect. I mean, you can see it's off angle and everything. It's pretty ugly, actually. I'm going to have to just force it and glue it in place. But I'll tell you what, it is very strong for what it is. Because what I really need is torque in this direction. Because that's where the, I guess the pressure is going to come from the fishing line. Okay, let's see if we can make the other side a little bit better. And there we have it, my two little dovetailed in pieces. So now what I need to do is I need to glue this up, and then I'm going to round the corners. But first I think I'm going to put that rounded profile on the bottom and drill the hole through it to receive the reel. Okay, time to drill some holes. Now the dowel rod going through here is going to be 3/8 of an inch, so this drill bit is about 10 to 15 thousandths more. So I'm just going to stack these together and drill the hole. It's going to be hard to hold on to them though, I think. They're a little bit slippery against each other. Okay, it turned out okay. Let's see, it's not glued together or anything yet, but it does spin quite easily, not a whole lot of wobble to it. And so this is going to be attached to that. Of course, I gotta still dress it up a little bit. I'm gonna round these corners, round this off. Might even put a chamfer on things. I don't know. We'll see. I'm gonna give this little bandsaw another go. Okay, I'm trying to think ahead here. This is going to be the bottom of the fishing pole, and I want this to attach somewhere to the straight portion of this. So I think what I need to do is I need to put a flat right here so that this won't rock back and forth when I'm trying to attach it. And I'm also thinking I need to put some holes down through here and take this apart so I can mount this first and then glue this up. Okay, let's put a little flat on here with my hand plane. Let's see if we can do this. Okay, now we're making a couple of handles because I'm going to make this an ambidextrous fishing pole. So we got this design here. I'm going to drill a 3/8 inch hole here and whatever size up here for the actual handle. Okay, so here we have it with a couple, I guess, 1/4 inch pieces of wood in place. Now it's time to chop these down and put some handles on. Okay, time to make a couple little handles. They're going to be 1 inch long each, but this dowel rod is a bit too thick. I'm going to cut it down a little bit. Okay, now we need to bore a slightly bigger than a 1/4 inch clearance hole. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, now I think I'm going to put a slight hollow in the center of each of these handles just to make them a little more fun to hold. Okay, now the last pieces of wood that I need to put on here are these little caps that go on the end. So they are a snug fit, but they will be glued on later so that this can remain spinning. Okay, now it's time. I've got it glued up, but it's still drying. But now it's time to put in those little metal loops that the string passes through. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to use some of this metal rod that I have, and I'm just going to bend it around this guy. I'll do 2 loops and then we'll play it from there. So let's see what we got here. Let's see if we can bend this by hand first. Let's see. Okay. That is not entirely horrible. It'll take a little more bending to get it exactly how I need it, but yeah, that'll do. Okay, here is my end loop. I think I'm just going to drill 2 holes in the end of this and glue this in. So we'll see how that works. Okay, and there we have the first little loop. And I went ahead and I made a second loop, and I'm going to fix it somewhere about right in here. So I'm just going to drill a couple holes, poke this up through, glue it in, and bend these tabs over a little bit. Okay, there we have the
Almost done.
second loop. Yeah, we're almost done, buddy. So, not too shabby. We got the 2 loops on there. Now we just got to wait for everything to dry. Got to put a hole through here and string up some string. And I also got to figure out how to make a hook. Okay, I took a remaining piece of that heavy gauge wire and I bent a hook out of it. So I'm hoping it'll be good enough for this. Now I just got to string it all up and finally put the string into here. Just trying to smooth things up a bit with a rasp. Okay, now it's time to give the fishing pole a stress test. Knowing my boy the way I know him, he will definitely put this thing through a torture test. So, let's see if we can lift a 4x4 with it. Oh yeah, it's doing that quite easily. Alright, well it passed that stress test. Okay, so here's one final look at the fishing pole. And I went ahead and added a little decorative piece on the end there so that he couldn't pull the hook back through this loop. So I think that'll work out pretty good. Let's see if we can get the whole thing in there. Yep, so now we're just going to let Grandma paint it.